Good heavens!
Brother John, I have come down from town to tell you that I am very sorry for all the trouble I have given you, and that I intend to lead a better life in the future. Give me your hand as a sign of brotherly reconciliation.
Absolutely not.
Uncle Jack, you're not going to refuse your own brother's hand.
Nothing will induce me to take his hand. I think his coming down here disgraceful.
Oh.
He knows perfectly well why.
Uncle Jack, do be nice. There is some good in everyone. Ernest has just been telling me about his poor invalid friend, Mr. Bunbury, whom he goes to visit so often.
Oh.
And surely there must be much good in one who is kind to an invalid and leaves the pleasures of London to sit by a bed of pain.
Oh, he's been talking about Bunbury, has he?
Yes, he has told me all about poor Mr. Bunbury in his terrible state of health.
Bunbury. Well, I won't have him talk to you about Bunbury or about anything else. It is enough to drive one perfectly frantic.
Of course, I admit that the faults were all on my side, but I must say that I think that Brother John's coldness to me is peculiarly painful. I expected a more enthusiastic welcome, especially considering it is the first time I have come here.
Uncle Jack, if you don't shake hands with Ernest, I will never forgive you.
Never forgive me?
Never, never, never.
Well, this is the last time I shall ever do it.
Cecily, you will come with us.
Certainly, Miss Prism. My little task of reconciliation is over.
You young scoundrel, Algy! You must get out of this place as soon as possible. I don't allow any Bunburying here.
Oh, really?
I have put Mr. Ernest's things in the room next to yours, sir. I suppose that's all right?
What?
Mr. Ernest's luggage, sir. I have unpacked it and put it in the room next to your own.
His luggage?
Yes, sir. 3 portmanteaus, a dressing case, 2 hat boxes, and a rather large luncheon basket.
I'm afraid I can't stay more than a week. This time.
Madam, order the dog cart at once. What? Mr. Ernest has been suddenly called back to town.
Oh, yes, sir.
What a fearful liar you are, Jack. I have not been called back to town at all.
Yes, you have.
I haven't heard anyone call me.
Your duty as a gentleman calls you back.
My duty as a gentleman has never interfered with my pleasures in the smallest degree.
I can quite understand that.
Well, Cecily is a darling.
You are not to talk of Miss Cardew like that. I don't like it.
Well, I don't like your clothes. You look perfectly ridiculous in them. Well, why on earth don't you go up and change?
Will you go if I change my clothes?
Yes, if you are not too long. I never saw anybody take so long to dress, and with such little result.
Well, at any rate, that is better than always being overdressed as you are.
If I am occasionally a little overdressed, I make up for it by being always immensely over-educated.
Your vanity is ridiculous, your conduct an outrage, and your presence in my garden utterly absurd.
Oh?
However, you have got to catch the 4:05, and I hope you will have a pleasant journey back to town. This Bunburying, as you call it, has not been a great success for you.
I think it has been a great success. I'm in love with Cecily, and that is everything. Ooh, here she comes.
Oh, hello. I merely came back to water the roses. I thought you were with Uncle Jack.
He's gone to order the dog cart for me.
Oh, is he going to take you for a nice drive?
He's going to send me away.
Then have we got to part?
I'm afraid so. It's a very painful part.
It is always painful to part from people whom one has known for a very brief space of time. What is it, Madamin?
The dog cart is at the door, sir.
It can wait, Madamin, for 5 minutes.
Yes, miss.
I hope, Cecily, I shall not offend you if I state quite frankly and openly that you seem to me to be in every way the visible personification of absolute perfection.
I think your frankness does you great credit, Ernest. If you will allow me, I will copy your remarks into my diary.
Do you really keep a diary? I'd give anything to look at it. May I?
Oh, no. You see, it is simply a very young girl's record of her own thoughts and impressions, and consequently meant for publication.
Oh.
When it appears in volume form, I hope you will order a copy. But pray, Ernest, don't stop. I delight in taking down from dictation. I have reached absolute perfection. You can go on. I am quite ready for more. Oh, don't cough, Ernest. When one is dictating, one should speak fluently and not cough. Besides, I don't know how to spell a cough.
Oh, Cecily, ever since I first looked upon your wonderful and incomparable beauty, I have dared to love you wildly, passionately, devotedly, hopelessly.
I don't think that you should tell me that you love me wildly, passionately, devotedly, hopelessly. Hopelessly doesn't seem to make much sense, does it?
Cecily!
The dog cart is waiting, sir.
Tell it to come round next week at the same hour.
Yes, sir.
Uncle Jack would be very much annoyed if he knew you were staying on till next week at the same hour.
I don't care about Jack. I don't care for anybody in the whole world but you.
You don't?
I love you, Cecily.
Oh.
You will marry me, won't you?
You silly boy, of course. Why, we've been engaged for the last 3 months.
For the last 3 months?
Yes, it will be exactly 3 months on Thursday.
But how did we become engaged?
Well, ever since dear Uncle Jack first confessed to us that he had a younger brother who was very wicked and bad, you, of course, have formed the chief topic of conversation between myself and Miss Prism.
Go on.
And, of course, a man who is much talked about is always very attractive.
Really?
One feels there must be something in him, after all. I dare say it was foolish of me, but I fell in love with you, Ernest.
Darling.
I hope your hair curls naturally. Does it?
Yes, darling, with a little help from others.
I am so glad. Of course, there is the question of your name.
Yes, of course.
You must not laugh at me, darling, but it had always been a girlish dream of mine to love someone whose name was Ernest. There is something in that name that seems to inspire absolute confidence. I pity any poor married woman whose husband is not called Ernest.
But, my dear child, do you mean to say you could not love me if I had some other name?
But what name?
Oh, any name you like. Algernon, for instance.
But I don't like the name of Algernon.
Well, my own dear, sweet, loving little darling, I really can't see why you should object to the name of Algernon.
Well,
it is not at all a bad name. In fact, it is rather an aristocratic name. Half of the chaps who get into the bankruptcy court are called Algernon.
really?
But seriously, Cecily,
Yes.
if my name was Algy, couldn't you love me?
I might respect you, Ernest. I might admire your character, but I fear that I should not be able to give you my undivided attention.
Cecily, your rector here is, I suppose, thoroughly experienced in the practice of all the rites and ceremonials of the church?
Oh, yes. Dr. Chasuble is a most learned man. He has never written a single book, so you can imagine how much he knows.
I must see him at once on a most important christening.
Oh?
I mean, on a most important business.
Oh.
I'll be back in no time.
What an impetuous boy he is. I like his hair so much. I must enter his proposal in my diary.
Excuse me, miss.
Yes, Madam.
Miss Fairfax has just called to see Mr. Worthing on very important business, Miss Fairfax states.
Isn't Mr. Worthing in his library?
Mr. Worthing went over in the direction of the rectory some time ago.
Pray ask the lady to come out here. Mr. Worthing is sure to be back soon. Oh, and you can bring tea.
With pleasure, miss.
Miss Fairfax. I suppose she's one of the many good elderly women who are associated with Uncle Jack and some of his philanthropic work in London. I don't quite like women who are interested in philanthropic work. I think it is so forward of them.
Miss Fairfax.
How do you do?
Pray let me introduce myself to you. My name is Cecily Cardew.
Cecily Cardew? What a very sweet name.
Oh.
Something tells me that we are going to be great friends. I like you already more than I can say. My first impressions of people are never wrong.
How nice of you to like me so much after we have known each other such a comparatively short time. Pray, sit down.
Oh, thank you. I may call you Cecily. May I not?
With pleasure,
And you will always call me Gwendolen, won't you?
if you wish.
Then it is all quite settled, is it not?
I hope so.
Mamma, whose views on education are remarkably strict, has brought me up to be extremely short-sighted.
Oh?
It's part of her system.
Oh.
So, do you mind my looking at you through my glasses?
Not at all, Gwendolen. I'm very fond of being looked at.
Oh!
Mhm.
You are here on a short visit, I suppose.
Oh, no, I live here.
Really? Your mother, no doubt, or some female relative of advanced years, resides here also?
Oh, no, I have no mother, nor, in fact, any relations.
Indeed.
My dear guardian, with the assistance of Miss Prism, has the arduous task of looking after me.
Your guardian?
Yes, I am Mr. Worthing's ward.
Oh?
Indeed.
It is strange. He never mentioned to me that he had a ward.
He didn't?
How secretive of him. He grows more interesting hourly.
Yes.
I am not sure, however, that the news inspires me with feelings of unmixed delight.
Oh?
I am very fond of you, Cecily. I have liked you ever since I met you. But I am bound to state that now that I know you are Mr. Worthing's ward, I cannot help expressing a wish you were,
Yes?
well, just a little older than you seem to be, and not quite so very alluring in appearance.
Oh.
In fact, if I may speak candidly...
Oh, pray do. I think that whenever one has anything unpleasant to say, one should always be quite candid.
Well, to speak with perfect candour, Cecily, I wish that you were fully 42, and more than usually plain for your age.
Oh.
Ernest has a strong, upright nature. He's the very soul of truth and honour.
But-
Disloyalty would be as impossible to him as deception. But even men of the noblest possible moral character are extremely susceptible to the influence of the physical charms of others.
I beg your pardon, Gwendolen. Did you say Ernest?
Yes.
Oh, but it is not Mr. Ernest Worthing who is my guardian. It is his brother, his elder brother.
Ernest never mentioned to me that he had a brother.
I am sorry to say they have not been on good terms for a long time.
Ah, that accounts for it. Cecily, you've lifted a load from my mind.
I have?
I was growing almost anxious.
Oh.
It would have been terrible if any cloud had come across a friendship like ours, would it not?
Indeed.
Of course, you are quite sure that it is not Mr. Ernest Worthing who is your guardian.
Quite sure. In fact, I am going to be his.
I beg your pardon?
Dearest Gwendolen, there is no reason why I should make a secret of it to you. Our little county newspaper is sure to chronicle the fact next week. Mr. Ernest Worthing and I are engaged to be married.
My darling Cecily, I think there must be some slight error.
Oh?
Mr. Ernest Worthing is engaged to me. The announcement will appear in the Morning Post on Saturday at the latest.
I am afraid you must be under some misconception. Ernest proposed to me exactly 10 minutes ago.
It is certainly very curious, for he asked me to be his wife yesterday afternoon at 5:30.
What?
If you would care to verify the incident, pray do so here in my diary. I never travel without my diary. One should always have something sensational to read in the train. I am so sorry, dear Cecily, if it is any disappointment to you, but I am afraid I have the prior claim.
It would distress me more than I can tell you, dear Gwendolen, if it caused you any mental or physical anguish. But I feel bound to point out that since Ernest proposed to you, he clearly has changed his mind.
If the poor fellow has been entrapped into any foolish promise, I shall consider it my duty to rescue him at once, and with a firm hand.
Whatever unfortunate entanglement my dear boy may have got into, I will never reproach him with it after we are married.
Do you allude to me, Miss Cardew, as an entanglement?
I do.
You are presumptuous. On an occasion of this kind, it becomes more than a moral duty to speak one's mind. It becomes a pleasure.
Do you suggest, Miss Fairfax, that I entrapped Ernest into an engagement?
I do.
How dare you? This is no time for wearing the shallow mask of manners.
Oh?
When I see a spade, I call it a spade.
I'm glad to say I've never seen a spade. It is obvious that our social spheres have been widely different.
Shall I lay tea here as usual, miss?
Oh, yes, Madam, as usual.
Very good.
May I offer you some tea, Miss Fairfax?
Oh, thank you, detestable girl. But I require tea.
Sugar?
No, thank you. Sugar is not fashionable anymore.
Here you are, miss.
Cake or bread and butter?
Bread and butter, please. Cake is rarely seen at the best houses nowadays.
Hand that to Miss Fairfax.
Certainly, miss.
Oh, you have filled my tea with lumps of sugar. And though I asked most distinctly for bread and butter, you've given me cake.
I did.
I am known for the gentleness of my disposition and the extraordinary sweetness of my nature, but I warn you, Miss Cardew, you may go too far.
To save my poor, innocent, trusting boy from the machinations of any other girl, there are no lengths to which I would not go.
From the moment I saw you, I distrusted you.
What?
I felt you were false and deceitful. I am never deceived in such matters. My first impressions of people are invariably right.
It seems to me, Miss Fairfax, that I am trespassing on your valuable time. No doubt you have many other calls of a similar character to make in the neighbourhood.
Gwendolen!
Ernest! My own Ernest.
Darling.
A moment.
Yes, dear?
May I ask if you are engaged to be married to this young lady?
Hello.
To dear little Cecily? Of course not. What could have put such an idea into your pretty little head?
Thank you. You may kiss me. Mwah.
I knew there must be some misunderstanding, Miss Fairfax. The gentleman whose arm is at present round your waist is my guardian, Mr. John Worthing.
I beg your pardon?
This is Uncle Jack.
Jack? Oh!
Here is Ernest.
My own love, may I kiss you?
A moment, Ernest.
Oh, of course.
May I ask you,
Yes, dear.
are you engaged to be married to this young lady?
To what young lady?
Hello.
Good heavens, Gwendolen!
Yes, to good heavens, Gwendolen. I mean, to Gwendolen.
Of course not! What could have put such an idea into your pretty little head?
Thank you. You may kiss me now. Mwah.
I felt there was some slight error, Miss Cardew. The gentleman who is now embracing you is my cousin, Mr. Algernon Moncrief.
Algernon Moncrief? Oh. Ugh. Are you called Algernon?
I cannot deny it.
Oh.
And is your name really John?
I could deny it if I liked. I could deny anything if I liked, but my name certainly is John. It has been John for
A
years.
gross deception has been practiced on both
My
of us.
poor wounded Cecily.
My sweet wronged Gwendolen.
You will call me sister, will you not?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Oh. There is just one question I would like to be allowed to ask my guardian.
An admirable idea. Mr. Worthing, there is just one question we would like to be permitted to put to you. Where is your brother Ernest? We are both engaged to be married to your brother Ernest, so it is a matter of some importance to us to know where your brother Ernest is at present.
Gwendolen, Cecily, it is very painful for me to be forced to speak the truth. It is the first time in my life that I've ever been reduced to such a painful position, and I am really quite inexperienced in doing anything of the kind. However, I will tell you quite frankly that I have no brother Ernest.
What?
I have no brother at all.
Oh.
I never had a brother in my life, and I certainly have not the smallest intention of ever having one in the future.
Had you never a brother of any kind?
None.
No brother at all?
Never. Not even of a kind.
I'm afraid it is quite clear, Cecily, that neither of us is engaged to be married to anyone.
It is not a very pleasant position for a young girl suddenly to find herself in, is it?
Let us go into the house. They will hardly venture to come after us there.
No. Men are so cowardly, aren't they?
Well, Algy, this ghastly state of things is what you call bunburying, I suppose.
Yes, and a perfectly wonderful Bunbury it is. The most wonderful Bunbury I've ever had in my life.
Well, you've no right whatsoever to Bunbury here.
That is absurd. One has a right to Bunbury anywhere one chooses. Every serious Bunburyist knows that.
Serious Bunburyist?
Yes.
Well, the only small satisfaction that I have in the whole of this wretched business is that your friend Bunbury is quite exploded.
What?
You won't be able to run down to the country quite so often as you used to, dear Algy. And a very good thing, too.
Oh, Oh, really? Well, your unfortunate younger brother is a little off colour, isn't he, dear Jack? You won't be able to disappear to London quite so frequently as your wicked custom was, and that's not a bad thing either.
As for your conduct towards Miss Cardew, I must say that your taking in a sweet, simple, innocent girl like that is quite inexcusable, to say nothing of the fact that she is my ward.
Yeah, I can see no possible defence at all for your deceiving a brilliant, clever, thoroughly experienced young lady like Miss Fairfax, to say nothing of the fact that she is my cousin.
I wanted to be engaged to Gwendolen. That is all. I love her.
Well, I simply wanted to be engaged to Cecily. I adore her.
Oh, there's certainly no chance of your marrying Miss Cardew.
Well, I don't think there is much likelihood, Jack, of you and Miss Fairfax being united.
Well, that is no business of yours.
If it was my business, I wouldn't talk about it. Ooh, muffins.
What?
It is very vulgar to talk about one's business. Only people like stockbrokers do that, and then merely at dinner parties.
How can you sit there calmly eating muffins when we are in this horrible trouble? Algy, I wish to goodness you would go.
You can't possibly ask me to go without having some dinner. It's absurd.
Give me those.
I never go without my dinner. No one ever does, except vegetarians and people like that.
Well-
Besides, I am particularly fond of muffins, and I've just made arrangements with Dr. Chasuble to be christened at 5:45 under the name of Ernest.
I made arrangements with Dr. Chasuble to be christened myself at 5:30, and I naturally will take the name of Ernest. Gwendolen would wish it. We can't both be christened Ernest. It's absurd.
Jack, you are at the muffins again. I wish you wouldn't. There are only 2 left. I told you I was particularly fond of muffins. Have some tea cake.
I hate tea cake.
Well, why on earth do you allow tea cake to be served up to your guests? What idea do you have of hospitality?
Algernon, I have already told you to go. I don't want you here. Why don't you go?
I haven't quite finished my tea yet.
Give it to me.
And there's still 1 muffin left.
Algy.
Jack!
Cecily,
Yes.
come here to the window.
What is it?
Look at them.
Ugh.
The fact that they did not follow us at once into the house, as anyone else would have done, seems to me to show that they have some sense of shame left.
They've been eating muffins. That looks like repentance.
They don't seem to notice us at all.
No,
Couldn't you cough?
but I haven't a cough.
Oh, they're looking at us. What effrontery.
They're approaching. That's very forward of them.
Let us preserve a dignified silence.
Certainly. It's the only thing to do now.
This dignified silence seems to produce an unpleasant effect.
A most distasteful one.
But we will not be the first to speak.
Oh, certainly not.
Mr. Worthing,
Miss Cardew.
I have something very particular to ask you. Much depends on your reply.
Gwendolen, your common sense is invaluable. Mr. Moncrief, kindly answer the following question. Why did you pretend to be my guardian's brother?
In order that I might have an opportunity of meeting you.
That certainly seems a satisfactory explanation. Does it not, Gwendolen?
Yes, dear, if you can believe him.
I don't, but that does not affect the wonderful beauty of his answer.
True. In matters of grave importance, style, not sincerity, is the vital thing. Mr. Worthing, what explanation can you offer to me for pretending to have a brother? Was it in order that you might have an opportunity of coming up to town to see me as often as possible?
Can you doubt it, Miss Fairfax?
I have the gravest doubts upon the subject, but I intend to crush them. This is not the moment for German scepticism. Cecily.
Yes, dear.
Their explanations appear to be quite satisfactory, especially Mr. Worthing's. That seems to me to have the stamp of truth upon it.
I am more than content with what Mr. Moncrief said. His voice alone inspires one with absolute credulity.
Then you think we should forgive them?
Yes. I mean, no.
True. I had forgotten. There are principles at stake that one cannot surrender.
True.
Which one of us should tell them?
Ooh.
The task is not a pleasant one.
Could we not both speak at the same time?
Excellent idea. I nearly always speak at the same time as other people. Will you take the time from me?
Certainly.
Your Christian names are still an insuperable barrier. That is all.
Our Christian names?
Is that all?
But
we are going to be christened this afternoon.
For my sake, you're prepared to do this terrible thing?
I am.
To please me, Algernon, you are ready to face this fearful ordeal?
I am.
How absurd to talk of the equality of the sexes. Where questions of self-sacrifice are concerned, men are infinitely beyond us.
We are.
They have moments of physical courage of which we women know absolutely nothing.
Darling.
Darling.
What is it, madam?
Lady Bracknell.
Good heavens.
Gwendolen, what does this mean?
Merely that I'm engaged to be married to Mr. Worthing, Mamma.
You are nothing of the kind. May I ask, Mr. Worthing?
Yes, Lady Bracknell?
Who is that young person whose hand my nephew Algernon is now holding in what seems to me a peculiarly unnecessary manner?
Oh.
That lady is Miss Cecily Cardew, my ward.
What?
I am engaged to be married to Cecily, Aunt Augusta.
I do not know whether there is anything peculiarly exciting in the air of this particular part of Hertfordshire, but the number of engagements that go on seem to me considerably above the proper average that statistics have laid down for our guidance.
But
Mr. Worthing,
Yes, Lady Bracknell?
is Miss Cardew at all connected to any of the larger railway stations in London? I merely desire information. Until yesterday, I had no idea that there were any families or persons whose origin was a terminus.
Miss Cardew is the granddaughter of the late Mr. Thomas Cardew of 149 Belgrave Square, SW, Gervase Park, Dorking, Surrey, and the Sporran, Fifeshire, NB.
That sounds not unsatisfactory. 3 addresses always inspire confidence, even in tradesmen.
I have also in my possession, you will be pleased to hear, certificates of Miss Cardew's birth, baptism, whooping cough, registration, vaccination, confirmation, and the measles, both the German and English variety.
Oh, a life crowded with incident, I see, though perhaps somewhat too exciting for a young girl.
Oh.
As a matter of form, Mr. Worthing, I had better ask you if Miss Cardew has any little fortune.
Oh, about £130,000 in the funds. That is all. Goodbye, Lady Bracknell. So pleased to have seen you.
A moment, Mr. Worthing. £130,000.
Yes.
Miss Cardew seems to me a most attractive young lady, now that I look at her. Algernon,
Yes, Aunt Augusta.
there are distinct social possibilities in Miss Cardew's profile.
Cecily is the sweetest, dearest, prettiest girl in the whole world. And I don't care 2 pence about social possibilities.
Never speak disrespectfully of society, Algernon. Only people who can't get into it do that.
Yeah.
I suppose I must give my consent.
Thank you, Aunt Augusta.
Cecily, you may kiss me.
Thank you, Lady Bracknell.
Mwah. Mwah. You may also address me as Aunt Augusta for the future.
Thank you, Aunt Augusta.
The marriage, I think, had better take place quite soon.
Oh?
To speak frankly, I am not in favour of long engagements. They give people the opportunity of finding out each other's character before marriage, which I think is never advisable.
I beg your pardon for interrupting you, Lady Bracknell, but this engagement is quite out of the question.
Really?
I am Miss Cardew's guardian, and she cannot marry without my consent until she comes of age.
But-
That consent I absolutely decline to give.
Upon what grounds, may I ask? Algernon is an extremely, I may almost say, an ostentatiously eligible young man.
Indeed.
He has nothing, but he looks everything. What more can one desire?
It pains me very much to have to speak frankly to you, Lady Bracknell, about your nephew, but the fact is that I do not approve at all of his moral character.
Untruthful. My nephew Algernon? Impossible. He is an Oxonian.
I suspect him of being untruthful.
You don't say.
I fear there can be no possible doubt about the matter. This afternoon, during my temporary absence in London on an important question of romance, he obtained admission to my house by means of the false pretense of being my brother.
Really?
Continuing his disgraceful deception, he succeeded in the course of the afternoon in alienating the affections of my only ward.
Is that so?
He subsequently stayed to tea and devoured every single muffin.
Oh.
And what makes his conduct all the more heartless is that he was perfectly well aware from the first that I have no brother, that I've never had a brother, and that I don't intend to have a brother, not even of any kind.
I see.
I distinctly told him so myself yesterday afternoon.
Mr. Worthing, after careful consideration, I have decided entirely to overlook my nephew's conduct to you.
That is very generous of you, Lady Bracknell. My own decision, however, is unalterable. I decline to give my consent.
But
Come here, sweet child. How old are you, dear?
Well, I am really only 18, but I always admit to 20 when I go to evening parties.
You are perfectly right in making some slight alteration. Indeed, no woman should ever be quite accurate about her age. It looks so calculating.
Indeed.
Well, it will not be very long before you are of age and free from the restraints of tutelage. So I don't think your guardian's consent is, after all, a matter of any importance.
Pray excuse me, Lady Bracknell, for interrupting you again, but it is only fair to tell you that according to the terms of her grandfather's will, Miss Cardew does not come legally of age until she is 35.
That does not seem to me to be a grave objection. 35 is a very attractive age. London society is full of women of the very highest birth who have, of their own free choice, remained 35 for years.
Algy, could you wait for me till I was 35?
Of course I could, Cecily. You know I could.
Yes, I felt it instinctively, but I couldn't wait all that time. I hate waiting even 5 minutes for anybody, and waiting, even to be married, is quite out of the question.
Then what is to be done, Cecily?
I don't know, Mr. Moncrief.
My dear Mr. Worthing, as Miss Cardew states positively that she cannot wait until she is 35, a remark which I am bound to say seems to me to show a somewhat impatient nature. I would beg you to reconsider your decision.
But my dear Lady Bracknell, the matter is entirely in your own hands.
What?
The moment you consent to my marriage with Gwendolen, I will most gladly allow your nephew to form an alliance with my ward.
You must be quite aware that what you propose is out of the question.
Then a passionate celibacy is all that any of us can look forward to.
That is not the destiny I propose for Gwendolen.
Thanks, Mamma.
Algernon, of course, can choose for himself.
Yeah.
Come, dear. We have already missed 5, if not 6, trains. To miss any more might expose us to comment on the platform.
My friends, everything is quite ready for the christenings.
The christening, sir? Is that not somewhat premature?
Both these gentlemen have expressed a desire for immediate baptism.
At their age, the idea is grotesque and irreligious. Algernon, I forbid you to be baptized. I will not hear of such excesses.
Am I to understand, then, that there are to be no christenings at all this afternoon?
I don't think that, as things are now, they would be much of practical value to either of us, Dr. Chasuble.
I'm grieved to hear such sentiments from you, Mr. Worthing. However, as your present mood seems to be one peculiarly secular, I will return to the church at once. Indeed, I have just been informed by the pew opener that for the last hour and a half, Miss Prism has been waiting for me in the vestry.
Miss Prism? Did I hear you mention, Miss Prism?
Yes, Lady Bracknell. I am on my way to join her.
Pray, allow me to detain you for a moment. This matter may prove to be one of vital importance to Lord Bracknell and myself. Is this Miss Prism a female of repellent aspect, remotely connected with education?
Oh, she is the most cultivated of ladies, and the very picture of respectability.
It is obviously the same person. May I ask what position she holds in your household?
I am a celibate, madam.
Miss Prism, Lady Bracknell, has been for the last 3 years Miss Cardew's esteemed governess and valued companion.
In spite of what I hear of her, I must see her at once. Let her be sent for.
She approaches. She is nigh.
I was told you expected me in the vestry, dear Carol. I've been waiting for you there for an hour and 3/4.
Prism! Come here, Prism.
Oh.
Where is that baby?
Well,
28 years ago, Prism, you left Lord Bracknell's house, number 104 Upper Grosvenor Street, in charge of a perambulator that contained a baby of the male sex.
I know.
You never returned.
What? No. Good Lord.
A few weeks later, through the elaborate investigations of the Metropolitan Police, the perambulator was discovered at midnight, standing by itself in a remote corner of Bayswater.
No.
It contained the manuscript of a 3-volume novel of more than usually revolting sentimentality.
But
the baby was not there.
Well,
Prism, where is that baby?
Lady Bracknell, I admit with shame that I do not know. I only wish I did.
Really?
The plain facts of the case are these. On the morning of the day you mention, a day that is forever branded on my memory, I prepared as usual to take the baby out in its perambulator. I also had with me a somewhat old but capacious handbag, in which I had intended to place the manuscript of a work of fiction that I had written during my few unoccupied hours.
Oh,
Lord.
In a moment of mental abstraction, for which I can never forgive myself, I deposited the manuscript in the bassinet and placed the baby
Yes?
in the handbag.
What? Good Lord.
But where did you deposit the handbag?
Oh, do not ask me, Mr. Worthing.
Miss Prism, this is a matter of no small importance to me. I insist on knowing where you deposited that handbag that contained that infant.
I left it in the cloakroom of one of the larger railway stations in London.
What railway station?
Victoria. The Brighton line.
I must return to my room for a moment. Gwendolen, wait here for me.
If you're not too long, I will wait here for you all my life.
What do you think this means, Lady
I
Bracknell?
dare not even suspect, Dr. Chasuble. I need hardly tell you that in families of high position, strange coincidences are not supposed to occur. They are hardly considered the thing.
Indeed.
Uncle Jack seems strangely agitated.
Your guardian has a very emotional nature.
This noise is extremely unpleasant. It sounds as if he was having an argument. I dislike arguments of any kind. They are always vulgar and often convincing.
It has stopped now.
I wish you would arrive at some conclusion.
Oh, the suspense is terrible. I hope it will last.
Is this the handbag, Miss Prism? Examine it carefully before you speak. The happiness of more than one life depends on your answer.
It seems to be mine. Yes, here is the injury it received through the upsetting of a Gower Street omnibus in younger and happier days. Oh, here is the stain on the lining caused by the explosion of a temperance beverage. Oh, an incident that occurred in Leamington.
Oh.
And here, on the lock, are my initials. I had forgotten that in an extravagant mood, I had them placed there.
Is that so?
Oh, the bag is undoubtedly mine.
Really?
I am delighted to have it so unexpectedly restored to me. It has been a great inconvenience being without it all these years.
Miss Prism, more is restored to you than this handbag. I was the baby you placed in it.
You?
Yes. Mother!
Mr. Worthing, I am unmarried.
Unmarried? I do not deny that is a serious blow. But, after all, who has the right to cast a stone against one who has suffered? Cannot repentance wipe out an act of folly? Why should there be one law for men and another for women?
Oh, no,
Mother, I forgive you.
Mr. Worthing, there is some error. There is the lady who can tell you who you really are.
Lady Bracknell.
Oh, good Lord.
Lady Bracknell, I hate to seem inquisitive, but would you kindly inform me who I am?
I am afraid that the news I have to give you will not altogether please you. You are the son of my poor sister, Mrs. Moncrief, and consequently, Algernon's elder brother.
Alger's elder brother?
Yes.
Then I have a brother after all?
You do.
I knew I had a brother. I always said I had a brother. Cecily, how could you have ever doubted that I had a brother? Dr. Chasuble, my unfortunate brother. Miss Prism, my unfortunate brother. Gwendolen, my unfortunate brother.
How do you do?
Algy, you young scoundrel, you will have to treat me with more respect in the future. You have never behaved to me like a brother in all your life.
Well, not till today, old boy, I admit. I did my best, however, though I was out of practice.
My own. But what own are you? What is your Christian name? Now that you've become someone else.
Good heavens! I'd quite forgotten that point. Your decision on the subject of my name is irrevocable, I suppose?
I never change, except in my affections.
What a noble nature you have, Gwendolen.
Then the question had better be cleared up at once. Aunt Augusta, a moment. At the time when Miss Prism left me in the handbag, had I been christened already?
Every luxury that money could buy, including christening, had been lavished on you by your fond and doting parents.
Then I was christened. That is settled. Now, what name was I given? Let me know the worst.
Being the eldest son, you were naturally christened after your father.
Yes, but what was my father's Christian name?
I cannot at the present moment recall what the general's Christian name was, but I have no doubt he had one. He was eccentric, I admit, but only in later years, and that was the result of the Indian climate, and marriage, and indigestion, and other things of that kind.
Algy,
Yes?
can't you recollect what our father's Christian name was?
My dear boy, we were never even on speaking terms. He died before I was a year old.
His name would appear in the army list of the period, I suppose. Isn't that right, Aunt Augusta?
The general was essentially a man of peace, except in his domestic life. But I've no doubt his name would appear on any military directory.
The army list of the last 40 years are here in the library. These delightful records should have been my constant study.
We'll help you.
Absolutely.
Cecily, over here.
What are we looking for again?
The army lists.
Oh, they're alphabetical.
What letter?
M.
Did he say M?
Oh, is this it?
Yes. Here you are, my love.
Oh, marvellous. Thank you, darling. Generals. Malum, Maxbo, Magley. What ghastly names they have. Markby, Migsby, Mobbs, Moncrief. Lieutenant, 1840. Captain, Lieutenant Colonel, Colonel, General, 1869. Christian names. Ernest John.
Oh.
I always told you, Gwendolen, my name was Ernest, didn't I? Well, it is Ernest after all. I mean, it naturally is Ernest.
Yes, I remember now that the general was called Ernest. I knew I had some particular reason for disliking the name.
I felt from the first that you could have no other name.
Gwendolen, it is a terrible thing for a man to find out suddenly that all his life he has been speaking nothing but the truth. Can you forgive me?
I can, for I feel that you are sure to change.
My own one.
Letitia.
Frederick, at last!
Cecily.
Algy.
Gwendolen.
Ernest.
At last.
My nephew, you seem to be displaying signs of triviality.
On the contrary, Aunt Augusta, I've now realised for the first time in my life the vital importance of being earnest.